All right, so we're looking at this very basic made up network. It's abstract. We've kind of been attaching different stories to it: traffic, social networks, referrals for sales. There's a lot of things that a network might be. Um, from the perspective of an economist, one feature of a network structure that we are often going to be interested in is how important is any particular part of the network. So if we think about centrality, this is a term that basically is asking, are you way off at the edge? That's a pun, I guess. Are we way off in the fringes of this network, or are we right in the middle? Now, physically, the way I've drawn this, we can see pretty clearly MN is in the middle. M is a very central node, and MN is a very central link. If you want to get into this cluster, you got to go through M. Right? From anywhere else in the network to get to here, you got to go through M. So M would be very highly central. And in this case, a network with a dozen nodes, it's easy enough to kind of look at this on paper. If you are working for Instagram, now you're looking at billions of users. You cannot even draw the graph onto a piece of paper in a way that makes any sense, even if you had a piece of paper that was a mile square. Right? And at that point, it's just not useful, right? You've got too much data to really make any sense of it. So finding ways to automatically find centrality, finding ways to get the computer to calculate values to hint at what's important is really the name of the game. And a really important thing to get there is degree. So M, we can see, has 1, 2, 3, 4 links, so we would say it has degree 4. Node A has degree 1. So A, right off the bat, looks less central just because it's linked to less stuff. M has 4 links, so it at least is potentially more central. Now, I think M actually has, M and N both have the highest degree in this particular network, which, like I said, I just made up. I just drew some points and started linking them together randomly. Maybe not randomly, but randomly enough. So, centrality. This is another key term, and degree is a quick and dirty way of kind of estimating centrality. Degree is just how many links are there. Centrality is basically how important is something. So we'll talk more about specific measures of centrality later. I'll show you on my computer how to generate random networks in R, how to look at networks that we can load into our computer, like, say, Wikipedia, and then to use that data to measure different measures of centrality that are more nuanced and probably more useful than degree. So let's introduce a couple more terms, and that'll, I think, be good enough to at least load in sort of some basic terminology, some basic language, so you can start talking about networks, so you can start thinking more clearly about networks as more than just dots and lines. So I believe we have talked about the bridges of Königsberg, and I don't remember what the map looks like, but I remember what the graph looks like, or at least roughly what the graph looks like. So the problem of the bridges of Königsberg was this problem where you had this city, this medieval, well, 17-something, 1754, I think. You had this, let's call it a Renaissance city, not quite medieval anymore, with all these bridges, these different rivers going through it. And there was this question of, here's sort of the middle island, there's a river there, there's a river there. That's kind of roughly what the rivers look like. But the question was, could we go around town in a way that we go over each bridge once. So Leonhard Euler, whose name you will see a lot the more math you learn, was presented with this problem, and he took what was a normal map and converted it to its bare essential, this purple map here, where we're just connecting edges and vertices. And he converted this problem into something that we now attach the word Euler circuit. And a circuit just means we go from one place, we go around the system, and then we end up back somewhere. Right? So it's a special kind of a path, essentially. Or maybe I'm mixing this up with cycles. Circuits and cycles. In any case, we have this question we can ask, which is moving around a network. More important than remembering the specific terms is remembering sort of the basic nature of the problem. And a really helpful problem to wrap your head around that is called the traveling salesperson problem, which is the question of, if you are a traveling salesperson, let's say you got to go to all the big cities across the United States, and you'd like to visit each one once, and you'd want to avoid backtracking. In a case like that, the question then is, when we account for the weights for all of these links, how do you get to each point while minimizing your travel cost? And this adds some extra stuff that you'll see in the book, some specifics about never repeating, never backtracking. But the basic idea is essentially a variation on the idea of a path. Right? So a path, we go from one place to another. With a circuit, we are going around through all of these different points. Whether or not that's possible depends on the structure. So here's a word that is more important than circuit or cycle, is the general topology, which is really just a fancy word for the structure. Right? So how is this network shaped? In this case, the topology of this network, which we can explain, well, in this case, we could explain by literally just drawing it out. We could just put all of this together into a form that the computer can understand. But if we're, say, asking about something like, say, real-world social networks, or if we think about not even social networks, but the networks of how often you come within 6 feet of someone who might sneeze on you. In that case, the network becomes a lot trickier. It's more nebulous, it's constantly changing. It's not something that we can pin down as neatly as this one that we have on a page, but by understanding things like what's the average degree, or how often does a very central node move through something, move through a particular space that is underlying our network, that structure is going to basically be the thing that is determining what sorts of behavior can we get out of this overall network. All right, I will add one other thing in a separate short video, which is how do we go beyond just drawing this and get it so that we can put it into the computer. I'm going to do this on paper, and then afterwards, or later on, we'll see it on the computer.